question about financing of the campaign. I believe it's been reported that you said that you were willing to invest as much as $1 million into this campaign. Is that correct? Or could you?
Who said that?
This is one thing we're trying to verify in terms of our reporting. So hopefully you can address that. And
David, if you're willing to lend it to me, I will invest it. That was never stated by my campaign or either my campaign manager or my consultant. Although she does have an idea what kind of car she wants when she turns 16.
And with regard to the super PAC issue, which is around, we're asking the candidates if they have any kinds of super PACs. Do you have a super PAC, or is there a super PAC affiliated with you?
David, you know my history. I would be very shocked if a super PAC ever jumped in on my side. Mm-hmm. And I don't know I don't know much about super PACs. I've heard the word, but that's number one, not part of my game plan, and number two, that would be a momentous day if a super PAC jumped in on my side. I don't know who would do it.
I appreciate that.
Certainly not the Florida Medical Association.
Good morning again, Dr. Kreegel.
Good morning, Dick.
I have a question for you.
Absolutely. This ought to be a good one. He's been brewing on this for 10
The
minutes.
level of appreciation and respect for Congress is at a frightening low level. What do you attribute that to? What can we do about it?
I attribute that to several things. People's perception of what is apparently true. The reality, people go into Washington and their head getting too big for the body, and feeling that they are now the chosen one. And you get all the scandals. The scandals are ridiculous. You know?
So if you win, you will be then getting in bed with people that most people don't like.
And I would say the same thing happened on the state level. And I'm not going to go farther with that analogy about getting in bed, but yeah, I'll be up there with people they don't like. And at the end of the day, maybe they won't like me either. I don't mean the people, I mean the people we're supposedly getting in bed with. I will say this, which is a fine closing statement. You can rearrange that if you want. That you know, people will ask me, you know, what am I going to do in Congress? Well, I have a record. I have 8 years in the legislature. You can take a look at my record, and I can tell you what I've done for the last 8 years. And I've always been on the side of smaller government, less regulation, and things which I feel will create more jobs in the long run. I've always been a Second Amendment supporter, strongly so. I'm known as a straight talker. That's not appreciated in Tallahassee. Probably less so in Washington, but I say what I mean what I say, and I'm going to stand for what I believe and what I think is good for my district and the country at large, when it's popular and all those times when it's not. I don't know if I've answered your question directly, but I've done my best.
Thank you.
Related, building on that, what would you consider your measure of success if you're elected in your first 2 years? What would make you proud in terms of a record of achievement?
If I could personally, individually balance the budget, that would be fantastic. But I don't bring that here as an offering. You know, if Jack Kemp, I was privileged when he was alive to be able to have breakfast with him one time. And, you know, he had several different positions, Congress and then in the administration. And he made a great analogy. He said that, imagine there were a huge barge, one of these huge ocean-going barges, we're all linked together, and you got a little tugboat in the back. He said, you know, you're going in that direction and at a speed. He said, at the end of 4 years here of doing everything you can do, if you could change the direction by 1 degree, yeah, it's a momentous achievement. I would do my best, knowing that I am only one of 435 people in Congress, but at the same time, your viewers only have the opportunity to elect one, so choose carefully.
Dr. Kreegel, given the pushback by the Seniors Coalition on cutting Social Security and Medicare as part of a balanced budget plan, do you foresee that actually happening in the next Congress, that they'll actually make those decisions? And would you support them?
I don't see any need to make those decisions, honestly. I think what we're looking at in Social Security is a huge diversion of the reality. Now, locked into the Social Security system are two things. One is old age retirement, over 65. The other one, which has become enormous, is disability. Now you have both locked into the same system. Just in round numbers, people who receive a check because they're 65 or older, that's nobody in this room, but that is about 25 million Americans who receive a check because they're 65 or older. In round numbers, the number of people who receive a check because they are disabled is around 10 million. Because of the age group in that, they have an enormous number of dependents, which leaves the total number of people getting a check from Social Security around 59, call it 60 million. Over double what we've got people receiving a check because they're 65 years of age. Now we have a major problem here, and your problem is the obvious actuarial one, where Social Security was predicated that, you know, you start at 18 or maybe you go to college, start at 22, 24, and you pay until you're 65, and then you start receiving. That works. The trouble is we have an enormous and growing number of people who have opted out of that actuarially. They're going to start when they're 20 or 22 or 25, or the most 30, and stop paying in if they did at all, and then start receiving for an enormous lifetime of 50 years. Actuarially, that does not work. It was never intended to be that way. The amount of out-and-out fraud going into the disability end of things is staggering. The number one reason for the diagnosis, for the number one diagnostic reason for somebody receiving disability, I don't know if you know what it is. It used to be back pain that's long gone, but there are now all psychiatric illnesses. Number one, and that includes, you know, bipolar, tripolar, north polar, south polar, post-traumatic stress disorder, things which, you know, we all have a feeling that if a man's in a wheelchair, if he's missing a leg, you know, he's disabled. But if somebody says, I'm just disabled, and here's a psychiatrist I saw, now we have a problem. You really can't disprove that.
But you're saying you don't foresee it being cut in the next Congress?
Here's what we need to do, and this is one thing I will work on with all my might. We need to dissociate disability from Social Security. We need to stop telling people 65 that, well, you know, you have to work now till you're 67 or 68 so that this guy can retire at 24. We need to dissociate the two. Actuarially, that will never work. We need to put disability over here in a separate budget line item, because forget the Social Security Trust Fund, there really isn't any. It's a budget line item. That actuarially will stand by itself. The day we do this and dissociate, this is actuarially sound for the next century. And we don't have to make people work longer so that these people can retire earlier. That's just plain fundamentally wrong. The next thing we need to do is we need to really crack down on this disability. That's just plain wrong. And you see it all the time. You go out to dinner and you see people with a disabled sticker who pop out of their car 30 years old. No obvious physical infirmity, but they got that thing hanging from there. We've got to put an end to this. Americans need to get back to work, just as everybody in this room has done most of their lives.
Dr. Kreegel, we're at the conclusion of our interview. Are there any final comments you'd like to make?
David, I've enjoyed being here. I've enjoyed being grilled for 8 years steady here. I honestly do. I enjoy this process. It's necessary, and it's been a pleasure. Not only that, but an honor to have you guys grill me and sometimes put me in my place when I need it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.